To this now, Johannesburg's City Power says of its 3,000 prepaid customers in Naturena, south of Johannesburg, fewer than half buy electricity. City Power says this has resulted in an annual 27 million rand loss in revenue. The utility has embarked on an aggressive revenue collection drive in a suburb in Naturena, disconnecting defaulting customers and those who have connected illegally. Of course, this has really seen some of the community members very upset. Some of the visuals, of course, you see their frustration there, but of course this resistance did not go down well with some of the City Power officials. Let's find out now what exactly happened there with City Power spokesperson Issac Mangena, who joins us live now. Thank you so much for your time. What was the reason, the real reason for this operation?
So basically, the city of Johannesburg is embarking on an aggressive revenue collection drive across the city of Johannesburg, not only Naturena. So we have been in different areas across the city to basically remind people of their obligation to pay for the services that they are using. When you've got water or electricity connected onto your house and you are not paying for it, that is basically in essence theft. So in Naturena, we've had a situation where we've got a lot of customers that are actually not paying for their services, and this is the community in a posh, affluent suburb in the south, who, when you walk down those streets, you can basically tell that they can basically be able to pay for this electricity, but they've chosen not to. But as City Power, we've been engaging them, trying to get them to basically do what is right and ensure that they pay for this electricity. So that's why today we decided, with the insistence of the city manager, Mr. Floyd Brink, that we need to basically ensure that the residents of Naturena pay for their electricity, and that's why we were there.
All right. One would ask, though, what does the posh suburb description have anything to do with what you were doing there?
The posh suburb basically describes the kind of livelihoods around that in Naturena, and the fact that, you know, they compare themselves. If you listen to some of the videos and messages that they posted on social media, they're comparing themselves with the informal settlements across the N12 highway, which is Freedom Park and Mountain View, saying that we should start there if we are serious about revenue collection.
And why aren't you starting there? Because they are correct. If you are going to be embarking upon a drive, an aggressive drive to be able to get your money back, why is it not everyone?
Like I said when I started the interview, I did mention that we have gone to all these areas. We have gone to Freedom Park many times, which is illegally connected. So Naturena,
and have you cut them off?
We have cut them off many times, so it's not the first time. In fact, on a daily basis, we are in and around Freedom Park, basically cutting off illegal connections. These are houses that are not formalized, so they are not even there in the books of Department of Housing. But Naturena is a bonded households that actually have formal electricity in their houses, and most of that electricity has been bypassed by the residents in Naturena. And my description basically want to draw parallel to the fact that they're able to pay for this lavish lifestyle, but they don't want to pay for municipal services. 309 million rands is owed to the city of Johannesburg in water, electricity, and even other services. So this is the money that we went to basically get back from the residents, and we will continue. We'll come back, not in many days, but we will come back very soon to ensure that we continue where we left off today.
So definitely people must pay for services. You know, one doesn't question that, but there's also people who are saying that you've cut them off, and yet they're on prepaid electricity, and they're trying to understand why.
Yes, so in Naturena, we've got about 3,000 prepaid meters customers in Naturena. Less than half of those are actually paying for the electricity. The rest are illegally connected, so they basically bypassed those meters so that they don't have not to have electricity. Remember, if they were not buying, it means that basically they won't have electricity, but they are not buying, they are not vending, but they do have electricity, which basically suggests the bypassing of the meters, and that's basically what we found.
So wait, I don't want that, pardon me, I don't want that point to be lost, because I just want to understand I've heard you correctly here. So these are people with prepaid meters, and then they will bridge the meter somehow in order for them not to purchase electricity so they don't run out? Is my understanding correct, or is there something else?
Yeah, so majority of us who have prepaid meters, we buy electricity based on what we can afford and the consumption that we basically use every month. So for them, that is not something that is happening because of they've actually bypassed the meter. So even when they haven't bought the units, they can still use the electricity because they managed to bypass that meter. So those are the people that we have, half of those in Naturena who have actually, in fact, they've cost City Power about 30 million rands annually. Because of the electricity that we lose, that they're actually stealing from the utility.
Sure, that's quite a serious number. And I wonder then, but there are some who are saying that everything for them is above board, but unfortunately they're finding themselves without electricity. How come?
So you've got a situation where, for example, on Malta Street in Naturena, we basically have low rate of vending on that street, and we went there we started there basically to disconnect these ones that are actually have bypassed. There's one customer there that is owing about 267,000 rands in services to the city, including electricity and water. And when we arrived there, he shut the gates in our faces and obviously didn't want to speak to us or to receive the pre-termination notice. Many of them actually have done the very same thing on that street. So what we decided to do is basically to cut off the whole street so that whoever claims to be above board can come to our offices and basically prove the point, and will be allowed into their property so that we can audit the meters and then we can reconnect them. So far no one has come through. Chances are suggesting that most of the fears that we had along that street in terms of non-payment is actually true.
So, Isaac, we're out of time, but I can't let you go without asking you this very briefly. There are allegations that City Power is doing this because there's a new system that you're trying to introduce and the residents aren't happy with it. And they claim that this is why then City Power is bulldozing them. I wonder, how do you respond to that?
We basically had this for the first time in the streets of Naturena today. They made all sorts of allegations. They made corruption allegations and so forth without any evidence to prove as such. But, you know, the residents of Naturena basically have been playing this cat and mouse with City Power for over 10 years, Bongiwe. And every time they will come up with an excuse why they should not pay for their electricity. And we have been basically, working with them on this road for 10 years. Every time they'll tell you that the smart meter that you are installing is basically eating more money or more units than the previous one, or certain things. So they just give an example, excuses. In early this year, they said to us that they want to pay for the service that they get, and the service should be of quality, which means that the incidents of cable theft that were happening in the area should be dealt with before they can basically allow us to put in new smart meters. We spent about 9 million rands to basically start the process of normalization, putting in new overhead lines instead of the underground copper cables that were targeted, and the rate of theft of cables has gone down. And when we went in to try to basically normalize the area, we were chased away. That is like a few months ago. So that's why I'm saying they've always had some excuse, one excuse or the other, to basically not pay for electricity. And we cannot allow that when the rest of the city is basically paying for electricity, or at least being forced by the authorities to pay for their services.
It sounds like this is a conversation maybe we should have with both of you, the residents and yourself, in one conversation, just to understand exactly what's going on. But thank you so much for giving us that update and putting us in the picture about what's going on from your vantage point. That is the spokesperson of City Power, Issac Mangena.